The rain slammed against the coffee shop's windows like a drumroll, each drop a reminder of the storm Emma was trying to outrun. She stood behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine for the third time, her hands trembling. Not from the cold, but from the text burning a hole in her phone. "We're done, Emma. I can't keep pretending." Her fiancé's words from last night looped in her head, sharp and final, like the snap of a branch in a windstorm. She exhaled, a shaky breath that smelled faintly of vanilla syrup, and tucked a strand of short brown hair behind her ear. The shop was empty, save for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint crackle of the radio playing some forgotten 90s ballad. Emma, 28, was good at pretending too. She'd built a life around it. Small-town girl turned city barista, engaged to a man everyone loved, planning a wedding she could describe down to the peonies. But last night, when Mark looked at her across their tiny apartment kitchen and said he felt like a stranger, something in her cracked. Not heartbreak, relief. And that scared her more than anything. The bell above the door chimed, slicing through her thoughts. She glanced up, expecting another early morning regular, but instead a woman stepped in, shaking rain from her jacket. Lily, 29, a freelance photographer with the Nikon slung around her neck, moved like she belonged everywhere and nowhere at once. Her blonde hair, damp and wavy, clung to her cheeks, and her hazel eyes scanned the room with a quiet intensity. "You open?" she asked, her voice low like she was testing the air. "Barely," Emma said, forcing a smile. "You're brave coming out in this mess." Lily grinned, unzipping her jacket. "Storms make the best shots." She slid onto a stool at the counter, her camera resting beside her like an extension of herself. The air shifted, carrying the scent of wet leather and something sharper. Maybe citrus from her perfume. Emma felt her pulse quicken, unmoored by the stranger's ease. "What's good here?" Lily asked, leaning forward, her elbows on the counter. Her fingers, long and calloused, tapped a rhythm against the wood. Emma shrugged, wiping her hands on her apron. "Depends. You want safe or bold?" Lily's eyes flickered, catching Emma's for a beat too long. "Bold. Always." Emma turned to the espresso machine, her cheeks warm. She focused on the grind, the tamp, the hiss of steam. Anything to steady herself. She wasn't supposed to feel this, not for a woman, not now. But as she slid the latte across the counter, their fingers brushed, and the jolt was undeniable, like static in a dry winter. "You from around here?" Emma asked, desperate to fill the silence. "Nah, just passing through," Lily said, sipping her drink. "Chasing stories, you know? Faces, moments. This city's got a pulse." Emma laughed a little too loud. "A pulse? It's just Seattle. Rain and overpriced coffee." Lily tilted her head, studying her. "You'd be surprised what you find when you look closer." The words hung there, heavy like the air before lightning. Emma's phone buzzed in her pocket. Another apology from Mark she didn't want to read. She ignored it, her eyes drifting back to Lily, who was sketching absent-mindedly on a napkin, quick, sure strokes of a skyline. The radio crackled, switching to a slow, aching melody, and Emma felt something unravel inside her. She didn't know what it was, but it tasted like freedom. Over the next hour, the shop stayed quiet, and their conversation flowed like the rain outside. Easy, then sudden, then deep. Lily talked about her travels, the way a single photo could capture a lifetime of feeling. Emma admitted she hadn't left Seattle in years, hadn't dared to want more than what she'd been told to want. When Lily asked about the ring on her finger, Emma froze, her thumb grazing the diamond. "Long story," she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. Lily didn't push, just nodded, her eyes soft but piercing. "I've got time." By the time Lily left, the rain had slowed and Emma's shift was nearly over. She stood at the counter, staring at the napkin Lily had left behind. A sketch of the shop's window, with a tiny figure that looked suspiciously like Emma, smiling. Tucked beneath it was a business card with Lily's number scrawled in messy ink. Emma's heart thudded, loud enough to drown out the radio. She slipped the card into her pocket, her fingers lingering on it like a secret she wasn't ready to name. That night, alone in her apartment, Emma sat on the couch, the TV flickering with some reality show she wasn't watching. The card was in her hand, the ink smudged from her thumb running over it. She thought of Mark, of the life she'd planned, of the woman who'd walked into her shop and made her question everything. Her breath hitched, a quiet sob she hadn't expected. She wasn't supposed to want this, but God, she did. Emma's fingers hovered over her phone, the screen glowing in the dim light of her apartment. Lily's number stared back at her, daring her to act. The clock on the wall ticked too loud, each second a hammer against her resolve. She'd spent the last hour pacing, replaying their conversation, the way Lily's laugh had cracked open something in her chest, the way her own voice had sounded foreign, alive. The scent of Lily's citrus perfume still lingered in her memory, sharp and unsettling. She typed a message, deleted it, typed again. "Hey, it's Emma. From the coffee shop." Her thumb hovered over send, her heart a drumbeat in her throat. She pressed it before she could change her mind. The reply came in under a minute. "Took you long enough, barista. Wanna grab a drink tomorrow?" Emma's breath caught, a mix of terror and thrill. She typed sure and hit send, her hands shaking like they did when she pulled her first espresso shot years ago. The next evening, Emma stood outside a dive bar in Capitol Hill, the neon sign buzzing like a warning. The air smelled of damp pavement and fried food from a nearby truck. She adjusted her jacket, feeling exposed without her apron, her armor. Lily was already there, leaning against the brick wall, her camera slung over her shoulder. She wore a leather jacket and jeans, her blonde hair catching the streetlight like a halo. "You made it," Lily said, her smile easy but electric. "Almost didn't," Emma admitted, her voice barely carrying over the hum of the city. "This isn't, I don't usually do this." Lily raised an eyebrow, stepping closer. "Do what?" "Hang out with a stranger." Emma laughed, nervous, her breath visible in the cool air. "Something like that." Inside, the bar was a haze of low lights and clinking glasses, the jukebox blaring a Springsteen song. They found a corner booth, the vinyl seats creaking under them. Lily ordered whiskey. Emma stuck with beer, her fingers fidgeting with the bottle label. The conversation started light. Lily's latest photo project, Emma's worst customer stories, but it deepened fast, like a river carving a new path. Lily talked about growing up in a small Oregon town, knowing she was queer by 15, leaving home to find herself. Emma listened, her chest tight, the word queer echoing in her mind like a chord she'd never heard but recognized. "You ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" Emma asked, her voice low, the beer bottle cold against her palm. Lily leaned forward, her eyes searching. "All the time. Until I stopped letting other people write my story." Emma swallowed, her throat dry despite the drink. She thought of Mark, of the wedding dress hanging in her closet, of the way her mother's voice still shaped her choices. "I don't know how to do that," she whispered. Lily reached across the table, her hand resting near Emma's but not touching. "You start by asking what you want, not what you're supposed to want." The words hit like a punch, raw and true. Emma's eyes stung, but she blinked it away, focusing on the grain of the table, the faint hum of the jukebox. She wanted to say something, anything, but her voice felt trapped, like a bird in a cage she'd built herself. They stayed until last call, the bar emptying around them. Outside, the air was crisp, the street quiet except for the distant hum of traffic. Lily walked Emma to her bus stop, their shoulders brushing as they navigated the cracked sidewalk. "You're not what I expected," Lily said, her voice soft but steady. Emma looked at her, the streetlight casting shadows across Lily's face. "What did you expect?" "Someone who plays it safe." Lily's smile was gentle, but her eyes held a challenge. "You're more than that, Emma." The bus pulled up, its brakes hissing like a sigh. Emma hesitated, her heart pounding. She wanted to stay, to say something reckless, but fear won. "See you around?" she asked, stepping back. Lily nodded, her gaze unwavering. "Count on it." Back in her apartment, Emma collapsed onto her bed, the ceiling fan creaking above her. She replayed the night. The way Lily's voice wrapped around her like a warm blanket, the way her own laughter had felt like a release. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through Lily's Instagram, a gallery of raw, vivid moments. A child chasing a kite, a couple dancing in the rain, a lone figure against a sunset. Each photo felt like a question. What do you see when you look at yourself? Emma's eyes drifted to the ring on her finger. She slipped it off, setting it on the nightstand with a soft clink. For the first time in months, she slept without dreaming of a wedding she didn't want. The next morning, she woke to a text from Lily. A photo of the coffee shop's window taken from outside with Emma's silhouette behind the counter. The caption read, "Caught you shining." Emma's breath hitched, her fingers tracing the screen. She didn't know what this was, but it felt like waking up. The coffee shop felt different now, like it held a secret only Emma knew. The morning rush was a blur of orders and steam, but her eyes kept drifting to the door, hoping for the chime that would bring Lily back. The air smelled of burnt espresso and cinnamon, grounding her even as her thoughts spiraled. She hadn't texted Lily back yet, the photo of her silhouette still open on her phone, a quiet dare. Her fingers itched to respond, but every time she tried, doubt crept in sharp, like the sting of a paper cut. By noon the shop quieted and Emma's phone buzzed with a new message. "Meet me at Pike Place tonight? 7 p.m. Got something to show you." Lily's words were casual, but they landed like a spark in dry grass. Emma's heart raced, a mix of excitement and dread. She typed OK and hit send before she could overthink it. Pike Place Market was alive with chaos, vendors shouting, fish flying. The air thick with the briny scent of the sea and the sweet tang of fresh flowers. Emma wove through the crowd, her boots scuffing the cobblestones, her breath catching in the cool evening air. She spotted Lily near the fish stand, her camera raised, capturing a vendor tossing a salmon with a grin. Lily's focus was magnetic, her movements fluid, like she was dancing with the world. "Hey barista," Lily called, lowering her camera. Her smile was bright, but there was a nervous edge to it, like she was holding her breath. "Hey Shutterbug," Emma replied, her voice lighter than she felt. "What's this about?" Lily gestured to the market. "Thought you could use a break from pouring coffee. Come on, I'm chasing light tonight." They wandered through the stalls, Lily snapping photos, kids laughing over donuts, an old man playing a violin, its notes sharp against the hum of the crowd. Emma watched her, mesmerized by the way Lily saw beauty in the ordinary. "How do you do that?" Emma asked, pausing by a flower stand, the scent of lilies heavy in the air. "Do what?" Lily said, adjusting her lens. "See things. Really see them." Lily lowered her camera, her eyes meeting Emma's. "You just have to stop looking away." The words hit hard like a stone dropped in still water. Emma thought of the years she'd spent avoiding her own reflection, dodging questions she didn't want to answer. She followed Lily to the waterfront, where the sun dipped low, painting the sky in pinks and golds. The sound of waves lapped against the pier, steady and relentless. Lily handed Emma her camera, the weight of it surprising in her hands. "Try it," she said. "Find something worth capturing." Emma hesitated, then raised the viewfinder, scanning the horizon. She focused on a seagull gliding over the water, its wings catching the last light. She pressed the shutter, the click loud in her ears. When she lowered the camera, Lily was watching her, her expression soft but intense. "Not bad," Lily said, taking the camera back. Their fingers brushed, and Emma felt that jolt again, electric and undeniable. She looked away, her cheeks burning, the sound of the waves louder now, like they were echoing her pulse. They sat on a bench, the wood cold through Emma's jeans. Lily showed her the photos on the camera's screen. Blurred motion, sharp details, moments frozen in time. One was of Emma laughing, her hair catching the wind. "You look free here," Lily said quietly. Emma's throat tightened. "I don't feel free," she admitted, her voice barely above the waves. I feel lost. Lily turned to her, close enough that Emma could smell her citrus perfume again. Maybe lost is just the start of finding yourself. The air between them crackled, heavy with possibility. Emma wanted to lean closer to close the gap, but fear held her back. A tether she couldn't cut. She thought of Mark, of the ring now sitting in a drawer, of the life she'd been told was hers. I don't know how to do this, she whispered, her breath shaky. Lily's hand found hers, warm and steady. You don't have to know. You just have to try. They stayed there until the sky darkened, the market lights twinkling behind them. When they parted, Lily hugged her, quick but fierce, and Emma felt the world shift under her feet. Back home she lay awake, the sound of the city humming through her window. She opened Lily's Instagram again, scrolling until she found the photo of her laughing at the market. The caption read, "She's starting to see." Emma's heart pounded, a rhythm she couldn't ignore. The next day she called Mark. His voice was tired, resigned when he answered. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steady for the first time in months. She didn't know what came next, but she knew it wasn't him. The cafe where Emma met Mark smelled of stale coffee and regret. They sat across from each other in a corner booth, the vinyl creaking under her weight, the air heavy with the hum of a nearby espresso machine. Mark's hands were clasped tight, his knuckles white, like he was bracing for a storm. Emma's ring sat in her pocket, a cold, hard truth she couldn't ignore. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice low but firm, cutting through the clatter of dishes. "I'm not who I thought I was." Mark's eyes, red-rimmed, searched hers. "Is this about her?" he asked, his voice cracking like thin ice. Emma froze, her breath catching. She hadn't told him about Lily, but he'd seen the shift in her, the way she'd started smiling again, the way her phone buzzed with texts she didn't hide. "It's about me," she said finally, the words heavy with truth. "I need to figure out who I am without you." He nodded, slow, like he'd known this was coming. "I loved you, Emma. I still do." "I know," she whispered, her throat tight. "But it's not enough." They parted with a hug, brief and awkward, the kind you give when you're already strangers. Emma walked out into the Seattle drizzle, the air sharp with the scent of wet asphalt and pine. Her chest ached, but it wasn't loss, it was release. She pulled out her phone, texting Lily. "I did it. I'm free." The reply was instant. "Meet me at the park. Let's celebrate." Volunteer Park was quiet, the grass damp under Emma's boots, the air alive with the chirp of birds and the distant hum of traffic. Lily was waiting by the water tower, her camera dangling from her shoulder, her smile brighter than the overcast sky. "You okay?" she asked, stepping closer, her breath visible in the cool air. Emma nodded, her eyes stinging. "Scared. But yeah." Lily's hand brushed hers, a quiet anchor. "Scared's good. Means you're alive." They walked through the park, the crunch of leaves underfoot mixing with the soft rhythm of their breathing. Lily talked about a new project, a photo series on people reinventing themselves. "You'd be perfect for it," she said, her voice teasing but warm. "The girl who broke her own rules." Emma laughed, the sound raw and real. "I don't know if I'm there yet." "You're closer than you think," Lily said, stopping by a bench. She pulled out her camera, snapping a quick shot of Emma, her hair mussed by the wind, her eyes bright with something new. "See? That's you right now." Emma peeked at the screen, her heart skipping at the woman staring back. Someone bold, someone she didn't recognize but wanted to know. They sat, sharing a thermos of coffee Lily had brought, the warmth seeping through Emma's hands. The conversation turned personal, Lily admitting her own fears. Never staying in one place too long, afraid of roots that might trap her. Emma confessed her guilt, the years spent pleasing everyone but herself. "You ever think about leaving?" Lily asked, her voice soft, the coffee steam curling between them. "All the time," Emma said. "But I don't know where I'd go." Lily's eyes held hers, steady and searching. "Maybe it's not about where. Maybe it's about who you're with." The words hung there, electric like the moment before a kiss in a movie. Emma's pulse raced, her fingers tightening around the thermos. She wanted to lean in to taste the coffee on Lily's lips, but the weight of her old life still lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake. Instead she smiled, small but real. Maybe. They spent the afternoon wandering, Lily snapping photos, Emma laughing more than she had in years. By dusk the park was empty, the sky a deep indigo. Lily walked Emma to her bus stop, their shoulders brushing again. Each touch a question neither dared to answer. "See you tomorrow?" Lily asked, her voice low, hopeful. "Tomorrow," Emma promised, her heart a wildfire she couldn't contain. Back home she sat on her couch, the apartment quiet except for the hum of the fridge. She opened Lily's Instagram, finding the photo from the park, her own face, alive with possibility. The caption read, "She's rewriting her story." Emma's breath hitched, her fingers trembling as she typed a reply. "Thanks for seeing me." She hit send, then curled up under a blanket, the weight of the ring in her pocket gone, replaced by something lighter, something alive. The coffee shop was a sanctuary now, its familiar hum of grinders and chatter, a steady pulse against Emma's racing heart. She hadn't seen Lily in 2 days, not since the park, but her phone buzzed with texts, photos of random moments, a streetlight glowing in the fog, a dog chasing its tail, each one captioned with a playful jab or a quiet truth. "Miss your coffee, barista. This city's better with you in it." Emma read them over and over, her fingers tracing the screen, the scent of roasted beans grounding her as she tried to name the ache in her chest. She was wiping down the counter when the bell chimed, and there was Lily, her blonde hair tucked under a beanie, her camera bag slung across her chest. The morning light caught her eyes, hazel and sharp, like she could see through Emma's skin to the chaos beneath. "Miss me?" Lily teased, sliding onto her usual stool. Emma's laugh was shaky, her cheeks warm. "You wish." She started on Lily's latte, her hand steady despite the flutter in her stomach. The hiss of the espresso machine filled the silence, but the air between them crackled, heavy with unspoken words. Lily leaned forward, her voice low. "Got a gig tonight. Art gallery downtown. Wanna come? I could use a muse." Emma's heart skipped, the word muse landing like a spark. "I'm not exactly gallery material," she said, sliding the latte across the counter, their fingers brushing again, deliberate this time. "You're exactly what they need," Lily said, her gaze unwavering. "Say yes, Emma." She did. The gallery was a maze of white walls and soft lighting, the air thick with the scent of wine and expensive perfume. Emma felt out of place in her jeans and sweater, but Lily's hand on her arm steadied her, warm and sure. The room buzzed with conversation, the clink of glasses, the low hum of jazz from a speaker. Lily's photos lined the walls, raw, vivid moments of strangers, each one a story. Emma stopped at one, a woman laughing in the rain, her face alive with joy. "That's you," Lily whispered, her breath warm against Emma's ear. Emma turned, their faces inches apart. "You're gonna get me in trouble," she murmured, half joking, her voice trembling. Lily grinned, her eyes glinting. "Good kind of trouble." They wandered the gallery, Lily explaining her work, her voice alive with passion. Emma listened, captivated, her world narrowing to the sound of Lily's laugh, the brush of her shoulder. By the end of the night, they were tipsy on wine and possibility, sitting on a bench outside, the city humming around them. The air was cool, carrying the salt of the nearby sound, the distant wail of a fairy horn. "You ever feel like you're running out of time?" Emma asked, her voice soft, the wine loosening her tongue. Lily tilted her head, her beanie slipping slightly. "All the time. That's why I don't wait for permission." Emma's breath hitched, her eyes locked on Lily's. The space between them felt alive, a current she couldn't ignore. She leaned in slow, her heart pounding like a drum. Lily met her halfway, their lips brushing, soft, tentative, then sure. The kiss tasted of wine and courage, the world falling away until it was just them, the city a distant hum. When they pulled back, Emma's face was flushed, her breath ragged. I've never, she started, then stopped, the words too big, too new. Lily's hand found hers, squeezing gently. You don't have to explain. Just be here. They walked through the city hand in hand, the streetlights casting long shadows. Emma felt weightless, like she'd shed a skin she hadn't known she was wearing. They stopped at a food truck, sharing greasy tacos, laughing over nothing, the grease on their fingers a small perfect rebellion. When Lily kissed her again, quick and playful, Emma didn't pull away. Back home, Emma stood in front of her mirror, studying her reflection. Her cheeks were still flushed, her eyes bright with something she hadn't seen in years, herself. She thought of the kiss, of Lily's hand in hers, of the life she'd been too afraid to want. Her phone buzzed, a photo from Lily. Their shadows on the pavement intertwined. The caption read, "This feels like home." Emma smiled, her fingers trembling as she typed back. It does. She fell asleep with the phone against her chest. The cities hum a lullaby, her dreams full of light. The world felt sharper now, like Emma had been living in a fog and Lily was the sun burning it away. She woke to the buzz of her phone, Lily's text lighting up the screen. Morning muse. Coffee shop or adventure today? Emma grinned, her heart tripping over itself, the scent of last night's tacos still clinging to her jacket. She typed back, adventure. You pick. The reply was instant. Meet me at the ferry. 10 a.m. Bring your courage. The Seattle ferry was a beast of steel and salt, its horn blaring as it cut through the sound. Emma stood at the railing, the wind whipping her hair, the air thick with brine and diesel. Lily was beside her, her camera capturing the churn of the waves, the gulls diving like arrows. You ever been to Bainbridge? Lily asked, her voice carrying over the hum of the engine. Nope, Emma said, gripping the railing, her knuckles white. Never had a reason. Lily's smile was sly, her eyes glinting. You do now. The island was quiet, a stark contrast to the city's pulse. They wandered through a farmer's market, the air rich with the scent of fresh bread and lavender. Lily bought a bundle of wildflowers, tucking one behind Emma's ear, her fingers lingering against her cheek. Suits you, she said, her voice soft, and Emma's skin burned where she touched. They found a cafe, small and cozy, the kind with mismatched chairs and the clink of ceramic mugs. Over coffee, Lily talked about her next project, a series on love in unexpected places. I want you in it, she said, her tone serious now, no trace of her usual tease. Emma's breath caught, the mug warm against her palms. Me? I'm nobody special. Lily leaned forward, her eyes fierce. You're everything, Emma. You just don't see it yet. The words landed like a stone in her chest, heavy and true. Emma thought of the years she'd spent shrinking herself, fitting into boxes that never felt right. She looked at Lily, at the woman who saw her in ways she'd never seen herself, and felt a surge of something new, courage, maybe, or hope. They spent the day exploring, Lily snapping photos, Emma laughing at her theatrics. By afternoon they were on a rocky beach, the tide low, the air sharp with salt. Emma skipped stones, the plink of each one swallowed by the waves. Lily watched, her camera forgotten, her gaze soft but intense. What are you afraid of? She asked suddenly, her voice cutting through the wind. Emma froze, a stone cold in her hand. Everything, she admitted, her voice barely audible. What people will think. What it means if I want this. Want you. Lily stepped closer, her boots crunching on the pebbles. And what do you want? Emma's heart pounded, the waves crashing in time with her pulse. She dropped the stone, her hands shaking, and turned to Lily. You, she said, the word raw like it had been ripped from her. I want you. Lily's smile was slow, radiant, like the sun breaking through clouds. She closed the distance, her lips finding Emma's, the kiss deep and sure, tasting of salt and possibility. The world fell away, the waves, the gulls, the weight of Emma's old life. There was only Lily, her hands warm on Emma's face, her breath a quiet promise. They stayed on the beach until dusk, the sky bruising purple, the air cool against their skin. They talked about everything and nothing, Lily's dreams of a cross-country road trip, Emma's secret wish to paint again. Something she hadn't done since high school. When they boarded the ferry back, Emma leaned into Lily, her head on her shoulder, the hum of the engine a steady heartbeat. Back in Seattle they walked through the city, hand in hand, the streetlights flickering on. Emma's apartment was quiet when they arrived, the air thick with the scent of her lavender candle. Lily kissed her again, slow and deliberate, and Emma felt herself unravel, her fears falling away like leaves in the wind. They fell onto the couch, laughing, tangled in each other, the world outside a distant hum. Later, as they lay under a blanket, Lily's fingers tracing patterns on Emma's arm, Emma whispered, "I'm scared I'll mess this up." Lily's lips brushed her forehead. "You won't. We'll figure it out together." Emma closed her eyes, the sound of Lily's breathing a lullaby. For the first time she didn't dream of running. She dreamed of staying. The coffee shop felt like a stage now, each shift a performance Emma was tiring of. The clatter of cups, the hiss of steam, the chatter of customers. It was all noise, drowning out the quiet truth she'd found with Lily. She'd spent the last week in a haze of stolen moments. Late-night talks, early morning kisses. Lily's laughter a melody she couldn't shake. But the weight of her old life lingered, heavy as the ring she'd given back to Mark. She hadn't told her family yet, hadn't faced the questions she knew were coming. Lily was waiting outside when Emma's shift ended, her camera slung around her neck, her smile a beacon in the gray Seattle dusk. The air smelled of rain and hot pretzels from a nearby cart. "Ready for tonight?" Lily asked, her voice bright, her hand slipping into Emma's like it belonged there. Emma nodded, her stomach twisting. Lily had invited her to a queer open mic night, a small venue downtown where artists shared poetry, music, stories. "I'm nervous," Emma admitted, her boots scuffing the pavement. "What if I don't fit in?" Lily squeezed her hand, her thumb brushing Emma's knuckles. "You fit with me. That's enough." The venue was a cramped basement bar, the air thick with the scent of beer and candle wax, the walls plastered with flyers. The stage was small, lit by a single spotlight, the hum of conversation broken by the strum of a guitar. Emma sat beside Lily, her knee bouncing, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater. The performers were raw, fearless, poems about heartbreak, songs about defiance, stories of coming out. Each one chipped away at Emma's walls, her breath catching at the honesty in their voices. Lily leaned close, her breath warm against Emma's ear. "You could be up there someday, telling your story." Emma laughed, shaky. "I don't even know what my story is yet." Lily's eyes softened, her hand finding Emma's under the table. "You're writing it right now." When it was Lily's turn, she took the stage, her camera replaced by a notebook. She read a poem, her voice steady but raw, about finding home in someone else's eyes. Emma's chest tightened, her eyes stinging as she realized the words were about her, the way she laughed, the way she was learning to be brave. The room clapped, but Emma barely heard it, her world narrowing to Lily's silhouette against the spotlight. After they stepped outside, the night air sharp with the promise of rain. Emma pulled Lily close, kissing her under a flickering streetlight, the world quiet except for the hum of the city and the thud of her own heart. "That was about me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Lily smiled, her fingers brushing Emma's cheek. "Every word." They walked to Emma's apartment, the city alive around them. Car horns, laughter, the clink of bottles from a nearby bar. Inside, Emma lit her lavender candle, the scent mingling with the warmth of Lily's presence. They talked until dawn about dreams, fears, the lives they wanted to build. Emma admitted she'd always wanted to leave Seattle, to see the world beyond the coffee shop. Lily confessed she was tired of running, of chasing moments instead of living them. "You make me want to stay," Lily said, her voice soft, her head resting on Emma's shoulder. Emma's heart swelled, the words a lifeline. "You make me want to go." They fell asleep tangled together, the candle burning low, the city humming outside. But morning brought reality crashing in. Emma's phone buzzed with a voicemail from her mother, her voice tight. "We need to talk about Mark." "What's going on, Emma?" The sound was a knife, sharp and cold, slicing through the warmth of the night. She played the message again, her hands shaking. Lily stirred, her eyes sleepy but concerned. "You okay?" Emma shook her head, her throat tight. "My family, they won't get this. They won't get me." Lily sat up, her hand on Emma's back. "You don't have to tell them yet. But when you do, I'll be here." Emma nodded, tears spilling over. She thought of her mother's expectations, her father's silence, the small-town church they'd raised her in. She thought of Lily, of the life she was starting to imagine. The fear was still there, but so was something stronger. A spark, a defiance, a love she hadn't known she could feel. She took a deep breath, the air sharp with lavender and promise. "I'm ready to try," she said, her voice steady for the first time. The air in Emma's childhood home was thick with the scent of her mother's pot roast, and the weight of unspoken questions. She sat at the dining table, her hands clasped tight, the clink of silverware loud in the silence. Her parents sat across from her, their faces a mix of concern and confusion. The drive to Tacoma had been a blur. Lily's hand in hers the whole way, steadying her for this moment. Now Lily waited in the car, her presence a quiet anchor Emma clung to. "Emma, what's this about?" her mother asked, her voice sharp, like the snap of a dish towel. "Mark's a good man. Why do you end it?" Emma's throat tightened, the words she'd rehearsed dissolving like sugar in water. She thought of Lily, of the ferry, the gallery, the beach, the moments that had rewritten her heart. She took a breath, the air heavy with rosemary and tension. "I'm not who I thought I was," she said, her voice low but firm. "I'm in love with someone. Her name's Lily." The silence was deafening, broken only by the tick of the kitchen clock. Her father's fork paused mid-air, his eyes fixed on his plate. Her mother's face froze, then softened, then hardened again. "Emma, this isn't, you're not like that," she said, her voice trembling like she was trying to convince herself. "I am," Emma said, her heart pounding, her hands shaking under the table. "I've spent my whole life trying to be what you wanted, but I can't anymore. I love her." Her father cleared his throat, his voice gruff. "You sure about this? It's a hard road." Emma nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "I'm sure." The conversation stretched, painful and raw, her mother's questions sharp, her father's silence heavier. But Emma held her ground, her voice steady, her love for Lily a fire that wouldn't dim. When she left, her mother hugged her, stiff but real, whispering, "I just want you to be happy." It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was a start. Outside, Lily was leaning against the car, her camera dangling, her smile soft but sure. "You did it," she said, pulling Emma into her arms. The air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and distant rain. Emma buried her face in Lily's shoulder, the world steadying around her. They drove back to Seattle, the radio playing a soft indie tune, the city lights blurring past. Emma felt lighter, like she'd shed a weight she'd carried too long. At her apartment they sat on the couch, the lavender candle flickering, the hum of the city a quiet backdrop. Lily pulled out her camera, showing Emma a photo from the ferry, a candid of her laughing, the wind in her hair, the horizon endless behind her. "This is you," Lily said. "Free." Emma's eyes stung, her fingers tracing the screen. "I'm getting there," she whispered. Months later they stood in a new city, Portland, a fresh start. Emma had quit the coffee shop, enrolled in art classes, her sketchbook full of lines she hadn't dared draw in years. Lily's photos lined their small apartment, moments of them together. Kissing in the rain, laughing at a food cart, sleeping tangled under a blanket. They were building a life, messy and real. The air always carrying the scent of coffee and possibility. One night at another open mic, Emma took the stage, her voice shaky but strong. She read a poem, raw and honest, about a girl who thought she was straight until love rewrote her story. The crowd clapped, Lily's eyes shining from the front row. Emma stepped down, her heart full, and kissed Lily under the dim lights, the world theirs. As they walked home hand in hand, the city alive around them, Emma realized she wasn't running anymore. She was home, not a place but a person, a feeling, a truth she'd fought to claim. The stars above were bright, the air cool, and Lily's laugh was the only sound that mattered. Emma knew with every step that she'd changed forever. Not just because of Lily, but because she'd finally chosen herself.